Hi! With iOS XR 7.3.1, we introduced a lot of new features, and today we will describe two improvements relative to security. Rakesh will describe in details the disk encryption capability available on the XR7 platforms, that means some of the NCS 540 and the NCS 57B1 products. And then he will talk about SSH authentication with X509v3 certificates. If you want to check what are the other innovations coming with iOS XR 7.3.1, I invite you to go check the different links present in the description below, or to go to xrdocs.io. And now, Rakesh.
Hello everyone, I'm Rakesh Kandula, Technical Marketing Engineer handling iOS XR security. Today, I'm going to talk to you about our new SSD encryption feature that is being onboarded in our iOS XR 7.3.1 release. Most of you must be aware of our iOS XR Type 6 encryption feature already. It helps encrypting passwords and key strings to provide runtime data protection. However, we now have a lot of scenarios to provide data at rest protection. There could be a scenario like a router theft from a remote cell site tower, or maybe there could be a service or a RMA scenario of a router, or it could be an unauthorized swapping of hard disk between cards, and lastly, maybe a scenario of router decommissioning. Whatever be the case, the common threat across all these is the risk of someone potentially trying to steal the sensitive configuration data from the disks. So to help protect our customers against these kind of threats, we are now onboarding a disk encryption feature which provides data at rest protection for sensitive data like running configuration. This feature comes with encryption key that is generated inside the Trust Anchor module, and the encryption key is also protected within the chip. On top of it, every card inside a modular chassis has its own encryption key. The feature encrypts a partition of the disk and not the entire drive. And the feature could be enabled or disabled on the fly using the CLI disk encryption activate. And lastly, we also provide a key zeroization CLI. This is to help handle the scenarios of RMA or decommissioning of routers. For more details about the feature, please refer to our iOS XR 7.3.1 configuration guides and release notes. X509v3 certificate-based SSH authentication feature. This is being introduced in our iOS XR 7.3.1 release. As most of you might already be aware, Cisco's iOS XR routers already support authentication with username and password or RSA tokens. With this feature introduction, you no longer have to do username and password management or token management. Instead, end users can just present their X509v3 certificates for authentication. For authorization, you could either use local or a remote TechAX server as well. The entire implementation is RFC 6187 compliant. So let's now take a look at the overall workflow. As you see here, an end user trying to log into an iOS XR router, which is acting as a SSH server. The user starts by first presenting their X509v3 certificate for authentication. Once the local authentication passes, the authorization request in this case is sent to a remote authorization server. Once the username is validated on the server and the appropriate privilege level is returned back to the router, the access is opened up for the end user. Let's now look at the configuration steps. There are three basic steps. First is to enable the X509v3 SSH RSA algorithm, then configuring the trust points for both host and user, and lastly, specifying which part of the certificate to be used as username for authorization. Finally, for the actual CA enrollment, this is something supported by iOS XR already, and any existing config guides can help you with a CA enrollment. Now let's look at the verification steps. As you notice here, the X509v3 SSH RSA is listed under the host key algorithms. Then the certificate-based option is enabled as yes, and you can see the trust points configured for both the host and the users. Coming to the restrictions of the feature, this is supported only for iOS XR devices acting as SSH servers, but not as SSH client. There is no support for OCSP8, but revocation status of certificates can be checked by CRLs. Up to 10 user trust points are supported, and there is a limit on certificate chain length as 9. Thank you.